Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking what I'd honestly call a hidden crisis right inside our classrooms, a massive gap in spatial reasoning. Now, this is one of those often overlooked skills that's absolutely essential for, well, almost everything, from figuring out how to navigate a totally new city to deciphering really complex global data. And you know what? The data shows we are definitely falling behind.
So let's kick things off with a pretty tough foundational question. Are the very educators shaping our students actually equipped with the spatial skills to navigate the world themselves? Because before we can even ask why our kids are struggling with geography or spatial concepts, we've got to look at the people standing at the front of the classroom.
To get some real answers, we're diving into this genuinely groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Geography. Researchers Shin, Andrew Milson, and Thomas Smith decided they needed to put future teachers to the test. They wanted to directly measure the actual spatial thinking abilities of undergraduate education students.
But wait, what actually is spatial thinking? Well, the National Research Council describes it as this essential mix of spatial concepts, tools of representation like maps, and just general reasoning. It's not simply about being able to read a roadmap on a road trip. It's the everyday cognitive skill you use to, say, pack a car trunk efficiently, figure out a crazy complicated subway system, or visualize complex data at work.
Here's the kicker, though. Despite how obviously important it is for everyday life, spatial thinking isn't explicitly taught in K-12 U.S. education. It's just not. In fact, if you look at the National Assessment of Educational Progress exams, American students consistently find test items that require spatial thinking to be the hardest ones by far. They are really struggling. But why is that happening?
Okay, so how did the researchers actually test this? They brought in 3 very specific groups of undergrads. First, future elementary education teachers. Next, future secondary social studies teachers. And finally, geography majors, who basically served as the baseline comparison group. And they didn't just look at raw smarts either. To get the whole shebang, a truly comprehensive picture, they used 2 completely distinct metrics. First, they used the Spatial Skills Test to measure literal, actual mapping skills and spatial relations. Then, they used the Attitude Towards Spatial Thinking inventory to figure out the students' personal habits, their confidence levels, and their general disposition toward actually using those skills. The results? Honestly, they're pretty eye-opening. There's this distinct stair-step difference in their actual spatial skills. Future elementary teachers scored significantly lower, averaging an 8.7. Meanwhile, secondary social studies majors hit a solid 10.0, and, no surprise here really, geography majors led the pack at 11.9. And guess what? That exact same drop-off holds totally true for their attitudes as well. Future elementary teachers averaged just 110.3 on the attitude inventory. So what does that actually mean? It means they feel way less confident and are far less inclined to actually use spatial reasoning in their daily lives compared to their peers. Now, you might be wondering, so what? Why does this matter so much? Well, it matters because teachers are the ultimate gatekeepers of the curriculum. If a teacher lacks confidence in spatial concepts, they're simply going to avoid teaching the material. It's human nature. The gap in the teacher's knowledge literally becomes the gap in the student's education. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom here. There is definitely a silver lining. The researchers isolated various demographic factors to see what actually builds these skills. The results were super fascinating. Things like age or taking frequent domestic trips, no significant impact at all. But taking geographic information systems courses or doing some international travel, those things significantly boosted scores across the board. The data was incredibly clear on this. Explicit instruction using geographic information systems, or GIS, is an absolute game changer. Getting exposure to GIS doesn't just mean you learn a new piece of software. It actually boosts those spatial habits of mind, deepens your understanding of the concepts themselves, and seriously enhances overall critical reasoning. So where do we go from here? The researchers laid out a perfectly clear 3-step roadmap. Step 1, we have to explicitly teach spatial concepts. Step 2, actively integrate GIS technology right into university teacher prep programs. And Step 3, graduate spatially literate teachers. We literally cannot afford to just cross our fingers and hope future educators pick these skills up on their own. Which kind of leaves us with this final, really provocative question for the future of our local schools. If our teachers can't confidently navigate spatial concepts, how in the world can we expect our students to accurately map their own futures? It's a massive foundational gap, but the good news is we have the exact tools to fix it. We just have to be deliberate about using them. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep exploring the data.